Meanwhile, Republican vice presidential nominee J.D. Vance escalated his attacks against Vice President Harris yesterday to a new level, blasting the Democratic presidential nominee over that U.S. troop withdrawal from Afghanistan 3 years ago.
To have those 13 Americans lose their lives and not fire a single person is disgraceful. Kamala Harris is disgraceful. We're going to talk about a story out of those 13 brave, innocent Americans who lost their lives. It's that Kamala Harris is so asleep at the wheel that she won't even do an investigation into what happened, and she wants to yell at Donald Trump because he showed up. She can go to hell.
Vance made those remarks during a campaign stop in Erie, Pennsylvania, while defending his team from accusations of improper behavior at Arlington National Cemetery. Later, Vance spoke to reporters during a stop in Wisconsin and doubled down on his initial comments.
Look, sometimes I get frustrated and sometimes I get pissed off, and I think Kamala Harris' failure of leadership at Abbey Gate is something to get frustrated and angry about.
So, Sam, that's J.D. Vance seemingly trying to explain or sort of soften his remarks. Because we're at a moment now where he just told the Vice President of the United States to go to hell. Like, that is the rhetoric that the Republican ticket is now engaging in.
Yeah, and I think, look, there's legitimate criticisms to make about how the Afghanistan withdrawal was handled. Obviously, it was a low point for the Biden-Harris administration. I think it facilitated the polling drop from which Biden himself never recovered, which goes to show you how the public felt about the whole matter. So, yeah, it's fair criticism, but this type of criticism and the politicization of the Arlington National Cemetery really does kind of trip up the Trump campaign operation from making that criticism. It's not so much, I mean, of course, it is the idea that you would kind of try to politically profit off of this moment by bringing a camera crew and filming in the sacred ground. But I think there's a larger context here, too, which is that there should be or should feel like there are places that are immune or exempt from politics, right? But politics has seeped into every facet of our life, churches, schools, everything. And now when you see the Arlington National Cemetery in Section 60 become a staging ground for partisan bickering because of Donald Trump, not because of anyone else, it goes to the larger piece that I think Harris is getting at, which is that we just want to move on from this. We don't want to spend time wondering whether it's correct protocol to bring cameras for political profiteering into Arlington National Cemetery. We don't want to think about whether those gravestones are used as props in political campaigns. But they have done this, and then, of course, in true Trumpian fashion, when confronted with it, they not only say Kamala Harris can go to hell, but you see the Trump campaign spokespeople saying that this person who was working at the cemetery was, quote unquote, suffering from mental issues. Why? What is the point of doing that? It just seems kind of a grotesque rejoinder to this whole thing when you could just say, look, maybe it was a misunderstanding, which is what normal people would say. So I think the larger story here matters as much as the specifics of what Vance is saying and what happened at Arlington.
Yeah, Allie, Sam makes a good point. First of all, Arlington National Cemetery is arguably the most sacred place in the nation. I try to go
Absolutely.
at least once a year and just walk through it. And to have a normal a quote normal campaign, a campaign of years past, if there had been an altercation between a staffer, a campaign staffer, and someone who works in the cemetery, it would be the campaign staffer sort of immediately fired or at least suspended. Instead, we have the Trump team doubling and tripling down and defending that staffer and attacking the person at the cemetery. And it does reiterate, as Sam said, what the Harris team is saying. And others in the political world are saying, the nation is just exhausted by Donald Trump and these hijinks.
Because you're right. In any kind of normal campaign, they were invited. That is their right to accept that invitation and to go there. That all makes sense. But when you're arguing with the staff at Arlington National Cemetery, I think you've really lost the plot there. I will say there's a report. There is a tangible report that was filed. That is something that members of Congress, I believe, have asked for. Certainly, I am inclined and interested to see it. That's something that I think could shed continued light on this situation. But if you're arguing with the staff at one of America's most sacred sites, I think you've clearly lost the message. The other piece of this, too, though, as I listen to J.D. Vance there, he's the person who rightly after the attempted assassination of his running mate, said that everyone needs to take the rhetoric down, and he blamed Democrats for ratcheting it up. Certainly, we've seen a ratcheting up across the board, largely in part because of former President Trump himself and the way that he attacks and goes at his enemies or political enemies as he perceives them. But that comment from Vance basically telling, as Sam said, the vice president of the United States to go to hell, that is completely anathema to what he said. And yet another moment where we are in a place of having gone through a period of saying, well, the Trump campaign is going to take the rhetoric down. This is a more sober-minded moment in the aftermath of an assassination attempt. We are mere weeks out from that. And here we are again.
Yeah, no one should ever think that the rhetoric will be turned down from Donald
we've been around
Trump
long enough to know that, right?
And his side. But yeah, you make a good point. This only just heightens the tensions and heightens the anger surrounding our nation's politics right now, 2+ months to Election Day. NBC's Ali Vitale, thank you so much for joining us this morning. And